Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about how to spot a beginner programmer. So let's get into it. This is a bit of an odd question, but I suspect that there is a type of a manager or someone like that, or maybe some beginner out there who wants to try to hide the fact that they are a beginner. And I hate to tell you this, guys, you can't. It's very, very, very easy to spot a beginner programmer if you know what you're looking for. Luckily, not everybody knows that, but overall, it's very, very hard to hide the fact that you are a beginner. And that's why I warn you, and I've warned quite a lot of people about this. Don't focus all your attention on just coding questions and trying to study for job interviews and stuff of this nature. If you want to prepare in that fashion, that's great. But I can tell you right now, there is no way that you will survive at an IT company by being a beginner and then just really, really, really focusing on getting a few questions on a test correct. Because you see, the thing that happens after you by some miracle get enough of the answers correct, or you somehow fool people into believing that you know more than you do, is that now you actually need to produce. And if you set the expectations that you are equipped to deal with the sort of working environment that you go into and you can't, or you need to ask questions every 5 minutes, then you're going to start annoying your coworkers and they're going to tell on you, and then you're going to get fired. And it's a lot worse to get fired after just a few weeks, or say a few months of employment, than it is to never have the job in the first place. At least from the perspective of your next job, because that basically boils down to you being fired for being incompetent, and that is the worst thing that can possibly happen. But if we go back on track here, the reason why it's so easy to figure out if somebody is a beginner is mainly because they are insecure in their own knowledge. You see, nothing is as easy as spotting nothing is as easy as spotting a beginner when you have a conversation with them. You see, I've met quite a lot of different types of beginners. You have the beginners who are absolute fledglings, who are very open about the fact that they don't really know all that much. I mean, that's a dead giveaway that they are, of course, juniors in their role. But then you have people who try to pretend otherwise, where you have met people who have been in the industry for years, but put their keyboard away in favor of spreadsheets a long time ago, and then they talk as if like they start talking in a fashion it's a very management type of thing to do. Or I'm not saying necessarily management, but it's a classic experience type of it's basically for lack of a better word, it is a very management or corporation-y type of thing to do, to start talking with confidence as if you know what you're talking about. But the problem with doing that is that you always run the risk of having somebody on the other side of the discussion who actually knows what the hell you're saying. It's kind of when you watch one of those movies about hacking, or doctors watching medical shows and stuff like that, where the show's creators are not themselves in this profession, and they need to have some type of creative freedom to deliver an interesting story, right? But for anybody who knows what the hell is going on, they can just, it's just bullshit. It's just, I don't know how many hacker moves I've seen where I'm kind of going, that can't be done. That's not possible. And this is absolutely incorrect. I mean, you kind of sit there. And it's the same thing with professional beginner, or somebody who tries to pretend like they know stuff that they don't actually know. Other ways that the beginners usually behave is that they mistake real experience and insight for tooling. It's a classic one I've seen in academics as well. It's very popular between the know-it-all community of people who spend a lot of time with history. That's one of my favorites. I don't know how many people I've ever have met, and it's kind of funny because I don't really meet this, I haven't met a lot of these people in other fields of academics, but in history, like history studies for sure. I have people who come up to me and see they read up on a bunch of history, and they can quote different different sections from different history books. They can tell me what happened in certain years and who did what and different wars and stuff like that. And they talk as if this is something that is giving them some type of knowledge or value or something like that. And I suppose it does to a point. But what I always find hilarious is that if you start asking them about something that actually requires you to do something besides memorizing something that they read in a book, they can't do it. They don't have, like, they mistake memorizing information for real intelligence. And that is a very classic thing. I don't know. I suppose it's because most of them, they seem to feel very good about themselves for some reason when they have a bunch of quotes or dates that they can talk about, and they try to steer this conversation into all of these things very often, and I just don't get it. And it's the same thing with programming, where I have a few people I talk to where I try to have a normal conversation with them about software development and just insights and experiences and stuff like that. And all they can ever do is to talk about how cool these modern tools are and are you using that framework or that framework. And anytime I ask them any type of in-depth question about it, and I ask like, okay, so you like that one, but why do you like that specific one? All of the answers are like really superficial, or they get to go from being confident because they know the names and of course they know what's up, they know what's what, right, to being very insecure in their own explanation. That's also a very easy giveaway. If you ask a beginner to explain something, a concept about a tool, or like how they think about a certain practice, they very quickly, even if they're very confident, they go very quickly from being confident to being very insecure. Because you see, the beauty about software development is that there are so many perspectives, and it's very hard to keep all the possible things that you can do and the benefits and the considerations in your head at one time. Which means that whenever you try to explain something that is more in-depth. I mean, it's very easy to make a tutorial about here is a component, this is how you make it. But when you start talking about practices and why you should do one thing over another, it gets a lot more trickier, because when you're talking to other experts, they might have a different opinion. And it's very common for people to lose their confidence or lose their nerve when they're trying to explain something regarding anything that is more in-depth. So that's another very easy way to spot a beginner, because a seasoned professional, they will not feel the need to do this thing that all beginners seem to have, and that is to impress or to somehow validate their own knowledge towards other people. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you want to spot a beginner programmer, it's very easy. Usually they are more insecure. They have a lot of anxiety problems, and they don't really feel confident in their own knowledge. And it's very easy to test this. You just need to ask them a few more in-depth questions regarding various things, and they will usually drop, like they will, even if they had some fluster to begin with, and they try to shine you away with all of the fancy terms and tools they know about. All you really have to do is to make an effort to ask them questions that actually only someone who has been working or has some type of experience could answer. And then you just listen to the answer, because most of the time they're going to start to stammer, or they're going to be very well, I think that they're going to get very uncomfortable in giving a straight answer. And that's actually, it's not very useful to know this when you talk to someone who is fresh out of college, but it's extremely useful to use this sort of test against people with more senior profile, because I'm sorry to say that there's a lot of people out there who pretend like they know more about programming than they do, and this is a very efficient way to figure that out. Have a great day.